nii, aga läheme tänase viimase paneeli juurde, milleks on siis suhtekorraldus ja raha ja me kutsume siia lava peale inimese, kellel on viimase 2 tunni jooksul olnud teist kõige igavam, sellepärast, et ta on pärit Rootsist ja ta ei saa absoluutselt aru, mis siin on praegu räägitud ja ta räägib meile sellest, et kuidas siis väikese eelarvega teha üks suur ja toimiv kampaania. Ta on suurepärane spetsialist, kes tuleb Rootsi agentuurist nimega, PR-agentuurist nimega Prime, mis võitis ka viimasel aastal Cannes'is kõige rohkem siis auhindu. Nii et üks aplaus ja meil on tulemas Hampus Knutsson otse Rootsist.
Thank you. It's kind of interesting sitting for an hour and not understanding a word. I was actually kind of nervous doing this presentation in English before. Now I'm very happy I don't need to do it in Estonian. So I obviously didn't get anything of your presentation there, so I guess I need to present myself a little bit. My name is Hampus Knutsson. I'm from the PR agency Prime in Sweden. I've worked there for 4 years. Today I'm going to talk how to make cost-effective campaigns with the help of PR. And I'm actually the head of the crisis team back home at Prime. So I handle about 60, 70 media crises a year. My background is publicities expert, so I've worked at Prime both within marketing communication, but the last few years I tend to do more and more crisis communication. Before I began at Prime, I was a semi-professional hockey player back in Sweden. So you can wonder why an old hockey player who didn't become anything who works at Prime as a crisis consultant stands here should talk about how to make creative campaigns and low cost-effective PR campaigns. Well, I think one of the explanations to that is that we, more than I would say our competitors in Sweden, have realized that we can learn from each other and have to learn from each other within the field of PR. The crisis team can learn from the public affairs team. The public affairs team can learn from the marketing team, and the marketing team can learn from the crisis team. And I'll come back to that, and I'm going to make a point about that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm gonna learn you guys something today. I'm humble, so I hope that I at least can inspire in some way. I have 3 big messages I want to get out there, and I go them through, and I also gonna give example of them through some case movies. Just a short background about Prime. I'm not going to make any advertising here. We were founded back 12 years ago, I think, and the mission of the founders was to revolutionize the PR industry in Sweden. We looked over, or the guys who were on board at that time, looked over to the United States, and they saw that PR agencies there were working more creative. Back in Sweden, it was only like the PR agencies. It was old men with dark or pinstripe suits going around in the parliament, shaking hands, writing some press releases. We thought that PR could be something more. You can use PR to actually sell products. You can use communication in that manner to actually become more commercial as PR consultants. And is that better? Yeah. Perfect. I heard perfect. yes, that was our mission, now being ranked #1 PR agency at the Cannes Lions, of course that's a milestone for us. We're about 120 people mainly in Stockholm, but even in Brussels and New York. And I'm going to start off now by showing a case movie, and I want you to think about how much would this cost if we would do the same thing by investing in lots of bought media instead of earning it. And I'm not going to give you any answer, but just think of it. And
in all ages, mankind has been tested by nature. Although science often has come to the rescue, fear is only human.
Swine flu spreads then from person to person.
In 2009, swine flu swept across the world and rapidly reached Stockholm. This new superflu differed from most earlier pandemics. It hit our otherwise strongest citizens the hardest, our youth. Part of being young is feeling immortal. This same group of young people also proved to be the greatest vaccine opponents. Stockholm's County Council did not have a strong relationship with this group. So how would we reach them and persuade them to get vaccinated? We found the solution in the history of literature. In the 14th century, when the plague spread terror around the world, Giovanni Boccaccio told the story in the classic book Decameron. The story of how 10 young souls fled from the plague-ridden Florence to safety, where they during 10 days told each other stories. What then was a conversation between 10 people could, with the aid of the internet, become something much bigger. Decameron Stockholm became a blog where we gathered 10 well-known Swedes to discuss the flu from their perspective. One of them, a stand-up artist, had humoristic reflections on the flu.
Did I say flying flu?
I think, yeah, you're starting to trend.
Another, a music journalist, not only spoke his mind, but also invited several Swedish hip-hop stars to speak theirs about vaccination. On Facebook, citizens could discuss and ask each other questions, and also ask the staff of the health information. And the impact was massive. Project Decameron was embraced by Stockholmers and provided media with something interesting than misleading speculation and terrifying isolated cases. It created a new dynamic relationship between young people and the Stockholm City Council that will benefit future challenges.
Jag tror det är jättebra för alla unga som ska få information, eftersom att det drabbar ju många, det sprids fort.
The effort has attracted international attention, and the Swedish Minister for Health and Social Affairs has selected the project as a European best practice case for how authorities should communicate. By using only social media and PR, we reached 14 million on just the first day. And at the end of the campaign, Stockholm was the most vaccinated capital in the world. What about you? Did you get your shot yet?
It's always a very bombastic movie made for competitions, I guess you imagine it. My personal reflection is I think this case movie is probably more expensive than the project itself. I'm not sure this is very, very creative. I'm not sure it's very, I mean, of course you could have done it several other ways. You could have bought media, you could have had posters up at all over the city. But I think this was a very effective way to reach this target group with these specific requirements. But I think the biggest learn from this one is that strategy is king, but hey, implementation is King Kong. If you have a good idea, it won't fly like that. You have to implement it. There's no holy grail to viral campaigns. You cannot drop a campaign and just hope that it's so great so it'll just fly away and reach the top. It's just like when I play hockey, it's sweat. It's working a lot. And here comes the lesson from crisis communication. This was actually the marketing department doing this, but they learned a lesson from us crisis guys. Because when there is a crisis, you put all the important people in the organizations together in one room, in one war room. You have the CEO, you have maybe the chairman, you have the HR people there, you have the etc. etc. And you work hard with one single mission: get your message out there. You need to get your message out there, otherwise you lose. And then when the crisis is over, everybody goes to their ordinary jobs, doing their ordinary things, and nobody talks to each other. We turned that around and wanted to take the same logic onto proactive marketing campaigns. To gather all people in a war room, work day and night, just to get the message out there. And that's has been proven to be successful. So that's my first message. The other message, and they go together, is that it's much more easier to ride on the wave of news than to create the wave of news. If you have a message you want to go out there with, it's easier to just go on someone who's written on something before and just adapt it, and than to invent news. We worked together with Audi in Sweden for their 100th anniversary. It turned out to be the same year the car industry had major problems. And Audi in Sweden, they struggle with the same as many car manufacturers do, to reach people who don't read the car papers in the magazine. So how would we? And one big target group was, for example, women in between 30 and 40, and we realized they read young fashion bloggers and design magazines and stuff. So one of the key questions was how can we get Audi in the same context, so that we actually reach this target group. And so the solution obviously became ride the wave of news. We had the big car crash, if I want to say so. And the thing is, when you produce cars, you use a lot of platinum for the catalyst or something. I don't know the exact word. But when the car crash struck, they stopped producing many cars. What happened was the market was flooded with platinum. And what happened was the platinum and the gold was the same price. So people started to get engaged with platinum rings. People started to get married with platinum rings. And that was the key insight for Audi. Okay, if we can communicate this, because it's relevant for us, because it belongs to the car industry. It's during our campaign period, and we can make this happen. So that was actually a very successful angle towards bloggers and those kinds of media. And obviously we had a motor, and that was a blog called Carwinism, and I thought we would look at that case too.
As Audi geared up for its 100th birthday in 2009, the car industry was on its deathbed. The inability of car makers to adapt to change became painfully apparent. Two of Sweden's national icons, Saab and Volvo, faced death and tens of thousands of jobs were in jeopardy. So how do you throw a birthday party when your relatives are dressed for a funeral? You crash someone else's party. In 2009, Audi turned 100. Charles Darwin turned 200. The car industry struggles for survival. Combine the three and you get Carwinism. The survival of the fittest applies to cars, just like it does living species. When the space race was on, the fittest cars had fins. In the early days of women's liberation, sales of pink cars peaked. During the 1970s oil crises, small cars took over the streets. To position Audi as the fittest car, the winner in a free-falling market, and celebrate its 100th birthday, we introduced the theory of Carwinism and wrote The Evolution of Cars. On February 12th, Darwin's birthday, the website Carwinism was launched. Here, academics and professionals from all imaginable areas gathered to write the new evolution theory. Carwinism became a much-quoted source and platform for promoting Audi's superiority in technology, the Vorsprung durch Technik. The Carwinism theory spread fast in all types of media. A technology blog aimed at women, leading business magazines, design media, fashion magazines, and private blogs all found the Carwinism take intriguing. Even those deep mourning Saab enthusiasts thought Audi's birthday was something to celebrate. Against all odds, Audi's centennial turned out to be the best birthday ever.
And obviously, a lot of what's genius about this campaign is the name itself, Carwinism. Who doesn't want to, at the same time as Darwin is 200 and the car industry is struggling for survival. It's a nice word to write about, a nice concept, something that different types of media want to write about. So. But it also explains how you must follow the news flow, how you have to pick up your flow and go with it, and to hold on to it, and so that you find your car industry crash or your client's car industry crash. When it comes to PR. We often talk about the fall of brands and the rise of companies. You can see that something has happened on the market. Back in the 80s, when you were buying denim jeans, you might remember that commercial where some guy put the jeans in the fridge and he got it off and was a really cool guy and put them on, and back at that time, Levi's could state, like, we are the cool ones. Somebody before talked about Apple, think different. Like, we are the challenger, it's us against the world. Brands had direct top-down correlations to us customers. Today, it's not that obvious anymore. I think we are in a new enlightenment period here, where the encyclopedia was at the Enlightenment period, where people for the first time could read knowledge, reflect about it. It was not the church coming with knowledge; they actually come through a new channel, books. It was the first time they could discuss about how the world works, how it's put together, how people think, and so on and so on. And this new enlightenment is, of course, started with the internet revolution. I think the internet penetration it's just growing massive all over the world. And what internet does, and maybe Wikipedia and Google is a symbol for that, is that every knowledge is now available in some way. You cannot be a true producer standing for team spirit at the same time as you have children producing the shoes in Malaysia. People can find out now, and that makes companies need to be more genuine, be more fair, actually better in so many ways. So the top-down brand-to-consumer thing is gone. And now we have more of a dialogue between the whole company and the whole society. I usually speak about we live in a reverse Big Brother community now. Remember George Orwell, Big Brother? Nowadays, every person having a cell phone or a computer or digital camera can collect information and spread it worldwide almost instantly. And that raised the demands for companies. It's not the government who watch over the people. It's the people watching the government and the companies. And that's lesson number 3. If you're going to do something, it needs to be for real. And you need to be, the organization needs to be for real in all manners. You can't fail on anywhere. And yesterday, media was the carrier of the message. You know, when you had a top-down relationship between brand and customer, you just looked at, hey, what kind of media does my customers read? You pick them out, made your commercial, bam, this is us. That does not work anymore, just like that. Now, the constant flow in media, on internet, is the channel. Or is the carrier. So it's the flow that carries out the message. And I'm going to give you an example, because I sound silly now. You remember when George Bush, when someone threw a shoe at George Bush? That's the spotlight. That's your moment in the flow that you should focus on if you're a shoe salesman. That's where you can get lots of attention for your products if you want to sell more shoes and want to be more recognized. You can arrange your shoe throwing competitions. You can do games for PC or for an iPad, or so that's important, and that's the birth of the birthday of Charles Darwin and the car industry crash was, of course, the window of opportunity for Audi for doing the campaign carbonism. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. So I basically have three lessons or 3 messages that I want to give you. One is, try to work organize yourself within your organization or with clients to work in war rooms, to really adapt to that and to make everything put hours in and sweat, because that's the key. It's not about sitting still thinking and trying to get up with the best idea and hope it's going to fly. Go in there, do the job, and it will fly. Act like a news broker rather than traffic generator. Ride the wave of news. Do not sit there, try to start the wave of news. It's much more easier to ride it. And have a focus on the content and make sure that you do something that's right and that everything within that organization is right. I have a favorite own example of a campaign that we've done together with Electrolux that I think involves all these all these things. And that's back from the sea. I don't know if you've heard about it. I'm going to speak about it briefly. I'm going to watch a case movie. What we've done here is really work in the war room system. We've involved the CEO, the salespersons, the HR department, the environmental department, and the key insight within the flow is that there is actually a mountain of plastic floating around in the oceans, twice the size as Texas. Electrolux producing vacuum cleaners is, of course, an enormous consumer of plastics. So what do you do? Well, the fact is there's also a problem with renewing plastics, and the industry struggles with getting new plastic. So Electrolux, they do have an interest that you get more plastic into their vacuum cleaners. So they decided to make a campaign, go out, pick that plastic up, not all the plastic, but as much as they can, and then make wax from that. And we're going to watch that.
We're chasing junk in the water. Piece of a crate, some styrofoam, some sheeting.
The plastic vortex of the Northern Pacific.
I mean, this plastic is becoming the beach. The beach is becoming plastic.
Electrolux as a company is a large consumer of plastics, and we could definitely use more high-grade recycled plastics.
The vacuum cleaner company Electrolux is launching a new machine called Vac from the Sea. That's right, new models will be crafted from recycled plastic that's been collected from the ocean. The company is recruiting volunteers around the world to gather plastic pollution that will be formed into new vacuum cleaners.
So most of the plastic is white and blue in colour, and that's because marine life are picking out the coloured pieces, thinking it's food.
And now you might think this is not very cheap to do. No, that's right. It's a lot of man hours to do that. At the same time, how would they get that reach using only, not using earned media? And how would they get that reach if they didn't have a great story to tell. And actually, you can see this is as much communication as it is commercial. They do a good thing. They get to speak about it, and and people love it and sell and buy more vacuum cleaners. Yeah, so that's all I had to say. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much. Good for you.